believe in them, and then learn how to apply these concepts into their government strategies and their approach to doing government business.
Thank you. And now we have the next question coming from via phone, and it's coming from Orizaba, Veracruz. Good morning. First of all, we would like to congratulate you for your wonderful presentation, and we have a question for you from our audience here. What are the experiences of just-in-time applied to Latin American enterprises?
Again, this is a very good question. There have been many successful applications of just-in-time in Latin America, in service industries. I know the Camino Real hotels, which is one of my favorite hotels, by the way. They are great believers in just-in-time concepts, and I've actually personally experienced the increases in their productivity and efficiency as I travel throughout Mexico primarily. Many of your multinational firms involved in Mexico have taken these concepts and applied them. Many of your big your maquiladora industries are embracing these concepts. So there are many, many good examples that you can find in Latin America where people are beginning to embrace these concepts and beginning to learn and beginning to apply these concepts.
El siguiente participante nos llama desde la Universidad
Next call is coming from Guadalajara, Mexico.
Escuchamos.
La pregunta es, si bien es
The question is, although some countries have already incorporated total quality management in their production, both Japan and the United States among others, it is also true that other countries are just starting in this new philosophy and process. So we are going through growing pains in many cases because of certain attitudes of resistance to change. What would be the strategy in order to overcome this stage, in order to be more efficient and apply these principles and procedures in a more efficient way? Thank you.
Well, I truly recognize that many of you are just beginning to understand these concepts and apply them in your own businesses. The key thing that I would say to try to get it moving and started in your either your service or your manufacturing environment is you must get this top management sponsorship. You've got to work on your top management and your leadership in your business. You've got to get that sponsorship. There are many, many ways you can encourage them to go out and learn. You can maybe achieve some successes in your own work environments and take that to your top management. But the key is you have to have people in your company that are going to be just-in-time champions, set the example, and to get that top management interested and involved in this process is absolutely essential. So they need to be educated and trained to accept these ideas and believe in them. So your challenge is to get that top management interest and involvement in these just-in-time concepts. Very, very difficult, but that's what you need to do. You need to get the sponsorship at the top for it to be a truly successful program. They must believe in it, accept it, and adopt it into the overall business strategy. If you do not do this, there will only be piecemeal type achievements. You need to get that total business focus on these concepts to truly achieve the true potential of the gains that are achievable.
Our next participant is calling from Mérida, Yucatan. What is the role of the maximum and minimum levels of just-in-time? Another question, are they compatible? Maximum, minimum, are they compatible with just-in-time?
Your question in terms of maximum and minimum inventory levels, I would just suggest that what we would do is not try to focus on these maximum and minimum levels, but more focus on what are the current levels of inventory and what we need to begin to reduce these inventories using the one less at a time approach. So whatever is your normal inventory today, what we want to do is attack that inventory and lower your maximum levels one less at a time to where we start achieving this pain, exposing our problems. Then we need to attack these problems and solve these problems systematically, one at a time, so that we can begin reducing these maximum levels of inventory using the one less item at a time approach. So we need to be focused on and attack our inventory, and in your case, in these maximum, minimum levels, really be focusing on those maximum levels and reducing those maximum levels one less at a time.
Desde el Paraguay.
From Paraguay.
La Universidad Católica Nuestra Señora
Catholic
de la
University
Asunción,
from Paraguay,
formulan la
Asunción.
siguiente pregunta. Adelante.
Sí, nos interesaría saber
We would like to know
cuál es la frontera.
what is the borderline between the just-in-time and re-engineering.
Indistinta su aplicación.
Is the application complete? I'm sorry, there is interference. There is interference. The interpreter cannot hear this because another call came in at the same time, so there was an overlay. Will you please ask them to repeat the second part of the question? Excuse me, can you hear the interpreter?
I can hear you.
Okay, la intérprete no pudo escuchar bien la pregunta. Hello, can they repeat?
Sí, cómo no.
Muy bien, gracias. Repita usted la pregunta.
¿Cómo no? ¿Cuál es la frontera?
What is the borderline between just on time and re-engineering?
¿Es distinta
Is it different? Is the application different?
¿Existen criterios
Are there
para
criteria in order to use one or other system? How do you differentiate the systems and how do you decide which one to apply? What's the borderline between those two?
This is a very good question. This concept of re-engineering, one of the differences is when you examine the philosophy of re-engineering, what they basically teach is that our existing processes need to be completely re-engineered or thrown out, and we need to start afresh, start new. And basically, re-engineering says throw out all of your existing processes and design new ones, new, more efficient processes. In a just-in-time approach, which I more favor, you start with your existing processes. You do not tear down your existing processes and start all over again, but you start with your existing processes as your foundation and improve upon those existing processes. So the borderline or the difference in philosophy is that where re-engineering is probably, I guess you would say, a more radical approach, which says discard your old systems and processes and design new ones, where the just-in-time philosophy would be more of a philosophy of taking your existing processes and improve upon them.
La siguiente pregunta
Next
nos la
question
formulan desde
is
La Paz,
formulated
Baja
from
California,
La
por
Paz,
sede de la Universidad Autónoma
Baja
de
California, from
California
the
Sur.
Autonomous University there.
Adelante, La Paz.
Adelante.
Bueno, vamos a formular
Well,
entonces
since we
una
cannot
pregunta
hear,
que nos llegó
we're going
vía
to
fax de la
have a
Corporación
fax question
Sanyo de Tijuana.
from Sanyo Corporation Tijuana.
Enfocarse en los procesos
To
del
focus
trabajo
on the
es uno de los
processes of
principios
the
clave de un
work
sistema
is
de
one of the
tiempo. ¿Por qué
key
entonces
elements of just-in-time. Why then do we have
tantas de nuestras
so
organizaciones no se
why do so
enfocan
many of
en
our
estos procesos?
organizations have difficulty implementing them, or why don't they focus on them if concepts are so simple to learn?
Again, very good question. And as our businesses have evolved, what has happened is that we've become as our businesses grow, we become very functionally oriented, create many functional walls, and we lose this process focus. So this just-in-time thinking requires us to step back and take a new look at our business and really understand our work processes, start exposing our problems in our work processes to become a much more process-focused company, not so focused on certain departmental or functional needs, but what are the real needs of our customers, what are our basic business processes, how can we improve these processes, and this requires change in our thinking, because what has happened, we have evolved into functional, departmentalized businesses, and we need to change our thinking back to a much more process-focused. And again, there's going to be resistance to this because we have become used to and become comfortable with this departmental functional focus, and we need to relearn how to go and look at our customers' needs and how do we really achieve speed in our processes. So this requires relearning, relooking at our businesses, and breaking down these functional walls that we've created over time.
Tenemos ahora una pregunta del Instituto Politécnico Nacional.
A question from the Polytechnical Institute, from the School of Tourism from Mexico City. Do you think that simultaneously when you implement just-in-time, do you think that we should also create training programs for staff?
Absolutely. This is very, very critical, that one of the key elements of success to a just-in-time program is a massive education training for all of the workers. Now, this can be achieved by bringing in experts and having these experts train key people that can then go and subsequently train your workforce. But training is a key element, and this training never ends. It's going to require ongoing training and learning, and as you get more advanced, there will be more advanced concepts and principles to learn. But training is key to success.
Another question coming from the Tulatepequi in Mexico. It's another university.
Adelante. Sí, adelante.
Se escucha, se escucha. Hable, por favor. ¿Aló? ¿Aló?
Sí, lo escuchamos. Adelante, formule la pregunta, por favor. Le estamos oyendo. ¿Tulatepequi?
¿Tulatepequi?
Bueno, parece que la pregunta se ha perdido.
Okay, well, something happened with the connection there. We have another question from Sinaloa coming by fax. And it's, why is it that just-in-time concepts have been applied so much more to the processes of manufacturing companies than to the processes of service companies?
One of the reasons, as I've already mentioned, is that, again, some of the early introductions of this thinking were in manufacturing environments, and many of the early successes were in manufacturing environments. It's also probably easier to realize the gains and to see progress in a manufacturing environment, because in our service functions, so many of our problems are not visible in our service bureaucracies and our service processes. But I believe the most significant gains will be when we learn to apply these concepts in our service businesses. Just think of all the examples that you can think of inefficiencies in service environments and waste in service environments, and the same kinds of issues that are in manufacturing environments are multiplied in our service environments. So there is great opportunity, and I believe this is the area now, because many of our manufacturing businesses have already now adopted and are learning this just-in-time approach. The future is learning how to do this in service environments, and when you think about our businesses, most of our business activities now are in the service sector. So think of all the opportunities for productivity increases and elimination of waste that we can attack in our service businesses, all the opportunities to achieve speed in our service processes. I'm sure you all can think of many examples where we can apply this thinking to our service environment. So I think this is the opportunity for the future, that attacking our service waste, our service inefficiencies, our service productivity problems is the real opportunity in the future here.
El siguiente participante llama
Next participant
de
is calling in
Petróleos
from
Región Sur,
Petroleum,
Reforma, Tabasco.
Mexican Petroleum from Tabasco, Mexico.
Ah, sí, lo escuchamos.
Reforma.
Adelante.
This is coming from a petroleum company. Do you think, Mr. Zalatan, that it is possible to apply just-in-time concepts to an enterprise where you have more than 10 administrative levels?
Yes, to answer your question, but we obviously really need to look at our part of our thing here that we've been talking about is looking at our business hierarchies and our many levels of management and trying to learn how can we run the business with less bureaucracy and less levels of management. We have to start somewhere, and in fact in my own company, when we started this process, there were actually 13 levels of management, from the president to the worker in the factory. Now, we have successfully, to this point, reduced our levels of management gradually over time from 13 to 5. So you have to start somewhere, and yes, it is very possible to start with these 10 levels and begin to introduce these concepts and gradually begin to achieve efficiencies and empower your workers so that you don't need all these administrative levels to run your business. But you have to start somewhere.
Another participant is calling from the Catholic University from Asunción, Paraguay.
Siga usted, escuchamos.
Go ahead, please.
Sí, cómo no. La pregunta es,
The question is,
¿qué sugerencias
what
tiene usted
suggestions do you have
para mejorar el
for us
proceso
to
de
improve the selection process and for to prepare the human resources in order to apply this just-in-time concept?
Well, to improve the selection process, my suggestion there is that as you bring new workers into your businesses or your service industries, you must really not only look at the technical skills of the people that you're bringing in, but also their willingness and their willingness to change and accept new ideas, and their willingness to accept these just-in-time concepts. So as your selection criteria is not only do they have the technical skills, which is very important, but also you need to be bringing people in that are flexible and do not have their thinking ingrained in the past, that are willing to accept new ideas. So a key thing you need to be looking for are, again, this flexibility and workers that are willing to adopt new ideas, and also workers that are willing not to be stuck in narrow job definitions, that want to have broad responsibilities and that also have the attitude of continuous learning. Part of your selection process should be based upon the workers' willingness to accept continuous education and continuous learning as part of the job, because this will be never ending. So the flexibility and the willingness to continue to learn and the willingness to accept new ideas should be key parts of selection criteria for new workers as you're bringing new workers into your businesses.
Another participant is calling from the electric company from Mérida, Yucatán.
Atención, Mérida. Siga, por favor. Sí, adelante.
Mérida,
Buenos días.
good morning.
Mire, quisiera preguntarle,
We would like to ask you
eliminar inspecciones
if you can eliminate inspections and reducing inventories. It's a constructive process. Also represents a great risk that would have negative consequences, and sometimes we just we're not ready for that program for just in time. Is there any stage in the just-in-time that will enable us to go through the transition period? On the other hand, who is responsible for the implementation of just-in-time in an enterprise, like, for instance, our electrical company that is the power company that is a state-owned, a state-run enterprise?
Very good question, very complex question, and one thing I do not suggest is to eliminate inspection or eliminate inventories until you have your just-in-time process in place and working effectively. Your people must, as you empower your workers to accept more responsibility, to accept ownership of quality, to accept that they need to solve problems as they are occurring, then you can begin the process of gradually eliminating inspection and gradually seeing your gains in reducing inventory. You cannot go out and arbitrarily eliminate inspection or begin reducing your inventories until you have this just-in-time process in place to the point that as you are exposing problems, your people are empowered and trained to solve those problems. If this process is not in place and you just begin arbitrarily reducing inventories or eliminating inspection without the process in place, it could be disastrous. So the process must be in place before you start realizing the gains of reduced inspection and reduced inventory. The other part of your question is that who is responsible for implementation. It is very key, as I have mentioned, for the top management to accept this responsibility and to be the sponsors of this change process. They have got to be responsible for implementation. It's got to be ingrained in the business strategy, in the overall business strategy, and they must accept the responsibility for implementation. You must get this sponsorship at the top executive levels of your businesses.
Another question from Petroleum, Mexican Petroleums from Tabasco, Villahermosa. We are speaking from the Division of Finances here. Our question is the following. If just-in-time is a philosophy, a new way of being and doing, why can't we integrate it at all levels of education?
At all levels of education? Is that your question? Could you repeat that? I'm not sure I understood it.
Not incorporated in the higher education.
Okay.
If just-in-time is a philosophy, a new way of being and doing, why is it that it's not incorporated at all levels of education?
Your question is a very good one, and I think what is happening now is that it is being incorporated in many of our educational programs, in our higher educational programs, and being taught at the university level. If you look in your handout in the bibliography, you will see many, many very good textbooks that are being used at the university level to teach just-in-time concepts. Here at San Diego State University, for example, we teach specialized courses and advanced courses in just-in-time. Many, many universities are now offering courses in just-in-time and in total quality management. So the educational institutions are now embracing these concepts.
Mr. Zalatan, lamentablemente el tiempo se nos ha agotado. Tenemos que finalizar esta sesión.
We hope you have enjoyed this video conference. We will continue transmitting programs on the latest in management techniques and systems and global competitiveness. We look forward to your participation in our next management program, Strategic Vision, which is scheduled for October 6th. Following this is our program on benchmarking, which will be held on November 17. Before the benchmarking program, site coordinators should send us any remaining required documents certifying participation by candidates qualified for the management systems for the 21st century certificate. I'd like to remind you also that on September 14 we'll be transmitting the second program of our Telecommunications for Education and Professional Development series titled Video Conferencing and Telecommunications, Technology and Training. We hope you will join us. On behalf of all of us who collaborate with the International Training Center, I thank you for your participation and interest in today's program. Thank you very much and see you soon.